So I see a lot of coaches that take this negative route with attachment style theory. And you have to understand, insecure attachment should be treated very delicately because those aren't something that they chose to have. There can be an argument made that once you grow up and you're an adult, you can start changing those things. And if you had a kid that was in school and they studied their butt off, for whatever reason, they could never get the grades like everyone else. You have to kind of view it like that. They can never get the grades as the other people in their class, and they feel like this dummy, like they're just dysfunctional. Before we get into the content, if you want my help personally, you can reach out to me on my website at www.fruitfulseeds.com. I want you guys to imagine if you guys had a watch, right? And that watch was given to you by your granddad. And your granddad really loved this watch because it was something that he put a lot of work into in order to buy. And it was the only thing that he's ever given to you over the course of your relationship. One day you wake up, your watch is gone and you don't think anything of it. You're like, it's just a watch. I actually have a cell phone anyway, so I can keep time that way. Who keeps watches these days? And over time, you start to realize that, that watch kind of meant something to you. What avoidants do is they take that time to really suppress their true feelings over what happened and the loss that they had. But over time, they start to think, man, I kind of instinctively look for that watch on my wrist and it's no longer there. So you can get yourself busy with different women, different men. You can get yourself busy doing different hobbies and activities, but you will always remember that feeling that you had on your wrist, right? And you can even go out and try to replace it, but it's not going to hit the same because what you had from your grandfather was very valuable. And this is kind of what avoidants do. They'll go to new relationships and they don't really process what they're truly losing because they don't see it as something that's valuable. It's almost like if a person isn't used to jewelry, if a person isn't used to having someone that's in their life that sees them, that understands them, that saw behind the mask that they wear, then they don't really understand the magnitude of losing something that was valuable to them. I always use the analogy, you can't get someone used to sushi when they're used to eating sardines. It takes a while for their palate to change, for their taste buds to change. So if you're someone that got out of a relationship with a fearful avoidant, and the fearful avoidant was used to very volatile and very unhealthy relationships, then they're not going to be able to appreciate when someone comes into their life that's stable, that's steady, and that's consistent. And for the dismissive avoidant, they're not going to understand what it's like to be held, to be kissed with passion and not just like you're kissing your grandmother. They're not going to understand, the intimacy that comes behind that. So I see a lot of coaches that take this negative route with attachment style theory. And you have to understand, insecure attachment should be treated very delicately because those aren't something that they chose to have. Now, there can be an argument made that once you grow up and you're an adult, you can start changing those things. But we're going to talk about what the person has brought to the table. Many of the times when people get into relationships with more specifically a dismissive avoidant, it's because they have bought the story. Like they have empathy for the person. They see that little boy or that little girl inside of them that are just craving for some type of attention, some type of nurturing. Their origin stories are usually someone in their life didn't show them what hugging was, didn't show them what affection was. They were severely neglected. And when you bring that into a relationship and you start to feel like this person doesn't appreciate what I'm bringing to the table and you call them out on that, that's when they start to feel very broken. And that's when they start to say, you know what, this isn't a relationship for me. But after they break that relationship off, that regret that they feel, it always shows up. I know this because I've coached people. I've coached avoidants who's reached out to me almost in a panic trying to get someone back because they let them slip through their fingers. And it was usually because the person felt unappreciated and like they have exhausted every avenue to make a relationship with them work. And one of the things that a dismissive avoidant tells me particularly is that the person saw them but never tries to change them. Then that is the thing that stuck with them the most. Many of the people that they got out there and they tried to date They always felt like the person was secretly judging them or secretly trying to change them and make them and kind of mold them into who they wanted them to be. The person that they miss, the person that they regret getting rid of, are the people who see them for who they are and accept them for who they are, and kind of give them a gentle nudge on showing up in a healthier way. When someone comes to me and says, you know what, I blew up on them, I did this and that, and I really lost control, which a lot of anxious attachers do, I have to break the news to them that the percentage of them wanting to come back to you is going to be very slim, because it was a pretty dysfunctional relationship. You have to understand, dismissive avoidants in particular are conflict avoidants. They don't like having these uncomfortable conversations. They really don't like being called out on, because this is a pattern that they've seen around the household. A lot of things just got swept under the rug. So if you're someone that's trying to recover that type of relationship, it may be too late, because you may have rubbed them so many different ways. They don't want to return to that type of level of stress. I've seen a lot of crossover here, and I don't know how many people talk about this. I've seen a lot of crossover of people being more dismissive, avoidant, and being on the spectrum. And it's interesting when someone has told me this on a call, because it's almost like I get excited to hear about that, because I'm like, this is exactly the patterns that I've seen. And if you know someone that's on the spectrum, you know that they have a limited capacity to be able to show up for another human being, because they don't pick up on the different social cues and social norms than someone else. Now, of course, autism is a spectrum disorder, but I've seen a crossover of someone that was, that didn't require intimacy, that didn't know how to have those deeper conversations, maybe socially awkward in some areas, but also not understanding what it takes to have healthy, functional, and thriving relationships, romantic relationships, that is. What you see a lot of people like that happens, people that are more severe dismissive avoidant, is you'll see a lot of mirroring of you, because they don't know how to manufacture that themselves. What they do is they kind of cheat off your emotional paper. Like if you show them a behavior and they've seen these behaviors repeatedly over the years, that's something that they'll just simply try to mimic. But deep inside, they don't know how to create that themselves, because they don't feel that way. I've had dismissive avoidants tell me that sometimes they just feel empty inside. They feel a sense of apathy, like this dark clouds looming over them. And why this is much different than narcissism is because narcissists, it's not an apathy. It's more like an emptiness. It's more like have this insatiable appetite that needs to be fed by any and everyone, no matter who it is. And I don't really care who has to clean up the mess after it's over. The big difference between that and being someone that's an avoidant is they do feel shameful. They do feel like they're just a broken person that really wants to make it work. If you had a kid that was in school and they studied their butt off, and for whatever reason, they could never get the grades like everyone else, you have to kind of view it like that. They can never get the grades as the other people in their class, and they feel like this dummy, like they're just dysfunctional. If you look at avoidance that way, and you truly analyze whether this is the relationship you can help them through, can you be their tutor through life when it comes to relationships? You have to be honest with yourself about that. The minute that you find that out, you really can't hold them 100% accountable for the things that they're doing, unless they're willing to go and do some counseling or some therapy with you. You're going to have to understand how to navigate this relationship when the other person has one hand tied behind their back. Can avoidance change? Absolutely. Can it be healed? Absolutely. Can someone that's more cluster B personality change, which is, antisocial, narcissism, sociopath? Probably not. But they also can go to behavioral therapy and call out the patterns and the behaviors that's going to continue to have those dysfunctional patterns in their relationship. So if you found this video of any value, please like, comment, and share. Thank you guys. And always remember, when you go and be loved, you'll never have to find it. God bless.